They told her to sit down or die, and in that frozen moment at 30,000 feet, every passenger believed the flight was already over. Asterisk, what city are you watching from today? If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe for more real stories about extraordinary people. The cabin had been calmed just minutes earlier. A routine evening flight. Overhead lights dimmed. People half asleep, half lost in their own thoughts. The woman in the left seat of the cockpit looked like any other commercial pilot. Calm face, tired eyes. No one in the cabin knew her history. No one knew what she had survived. And no one knew how badly the hijackers had misjudged the person flying their plane. Her name on the manifest was Captain Elena Carter. To the airline, she was a senior pilot with thousands of civilian flight hours. To the passengers, she was a quiet professional who welcomed them aboard with a steady voice. What no one announced over the intercom was that before this uniform, before this cockpit, she had worn another one. One earned through years of fire, discipline, and missions that never made the news. The trouble began just after the seatbelt sign went off. A shout cut through the aisle. Then another. Two men forced their way forward, their voices loud with panic and rage. They claimed control of the plane. They threatened lives. They believed fear was power. A flight attendant tried to intervene and was shoved aside. Passengers froze. Some cried. Others prayed. Phones were clenched in shaking hands, useless without a signal. The cockpit door rattled under heavy blows until protocol forced it open. The moment the door swung wide, the taller hijacker leaned in and shouted the words that echoed through the cabin. Sit down or die. He expected terror. He expected surrender. He expected to see a pilot who would break. Elena did not turn around right away. Her hand stayed steady on the controls. Her eyes scanned the instruments with practiced ease. When she finally looked at him, her expression did not change. No fear, no anger. Just focus. You are endangering everyone on this aircraft, she said calmly. Step back now. The man laughed. He saw a woman in a pilot's seat and assumed weakness. He told her to land where he demanded. He repeated his threat, louder this time, for the passengers to hear. Elena slowly raised her hands from the controls and stood. The co-pilot stared at her, confused and afraid. Passengers held their breath. She stepped aside from the seat as ordered. The hijacker smirked, convinced he had won. He moved closer, pointing and shouting instructions he barely understood. That was when Elena spoke again, her voice carrying a weight that cut through the chaos. You picked the wrong cockpit. Years earlier, she had been somewhere very different. A desert airstrip under enemy fire. A damaged aircraft with alarms screaming. Teammates depending on her decisions. In those moments, panic had meant death. Discipline had meant survival. She had learned to think when others froze, to act when others hesitated. The hijacker reached for the controls. He did not know what he was touching. Elena watched him carefully, calculating angles, timing, and risk. The aircraft began to drift off course. Warnings flashed. The co-pilot tried to speak but was silenced with another threat. Elena raised her hands again, not in surrender, but to show calm. She spoke softly, so only the cockpit could hear. You cannot fly this plane, she said. You will crash us all. The man shouted back that he did not care. He believed fear gave him control. That was his final mistake. In one fluid movement, Elena stepped forward, redirected his grip, and forced him away from the controls. It was not dramatic. It was efficient. The kind of movement drilled into muscle memory through years of training. The second hijacker rushed in, but the narrow cockpit worked against him. Elena used the space like a weapon, controlling distance, balance, and momentum. The co-pilot recovered just enough to help restrain one attacker. The other stumbled backward into the doorway, where flight attendants and a few brave passengers pulled him down. The struggle was over in seconds, but it felt like an eternity to everyone watching. Silence followed. Heavy, stunned silence. Elena returned to the seat and took control of the aircraft. Her breathing was steady. Her hands did not shake. She spoke into the intercom, her voice clear and composed. "Ladies and gentlemen, this situation is under control. Please remain seated." Only after the plane leveled out did she allow herself a long breath. The co-pilot looked at her with wide eyes and finally asked a question that had been hanging in the air. "Where did you learn to do that?" Elena did not answer right away. She focused on the horizon, guiding the aircraft back towards safety. When she finally spoke, her words were simple. "Before this job, I flew different missions. Authorities met the plane on the ground. Passengers were escorted off, some crying, some hugging strangers, all trying to process how close they had come to disaster. News crews arrived quickly, hungry for details. That was when the truth came out. Captain Elena Carter was a former Navy SEAL pilot, decorated, battle-tested, woman who had led extraction missions under fire and brought people home when the odds said she should not. She had left the military quietly, carrying experiences she did not advertise. She did not need applause. She needed peace. Passengers who had heard the threat, 'Sit down or die,' now looked at her with awe. They realized the same words meant nothing to someone who had stared down worse and kept flying. When asked later how she stayed calm, Elena gave a short answer. "Fear is real," she said. "But training decides what you do with it." The story spread fast. Headlines praised her courage. Commentators argued about heroes and luck. Elena avoided interviews. She returned to work. Another flight. Another routine greeting. Another safe landing. But for the people on that plane, nothing was routine anymore. They had seen what quiet strength looked like. Not loud, not boastful, just prepared. The lesson was simple and powerful. You never know who is standing in front of you. You never know what they have survived. And under pressure, true character does not announce itself. It acts. What did this story make you feel? Where are you watching from? Subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more real stories that heal the heart.